Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Sahara Omar. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist practicing here in the state of Texas. And today's video is a sensitive one. I highly recommend to pause if you are feeling overwhelmed in this conversation. So I did want to insert a trigger warning first, and also go ahead and use any of the resources that I link into the description box if this is yourself or you know somebody who's stuck in this cycle with somebody else as well. All right, so we're going to talk about the cycle of abuse. First, I wanted to go over what is abuse in general, the cycle itself, and also how is this different than trauma bond, and what can you do if you find yourself in an abusive dynamic with someone else, okay? All right, so abuse generally is a misuse or mistreatment of someone. There's usually a power differences between the abused and the victim or the abusee. And typically it happens on multiple different dimensions. It can happen on psychological, it can happen on emotional level. It also happens on a physical level, sexual level, financials, and definitely spiritual as well too, okay? So people can be abused in different ways, but nevertheless, it's always going to have these 4 steps dynamics, especially if it's a relationally oriented as well. And the more we understand the cycle and the more we understand what we are dealing with, the more empowered that we feel to get out of these situations as soon as we feel a little bit more safer in those spaces, okay? So that's what abuse is. With that being said, it shows up in these 4 steps. So one, I would start with, typically either it starts with the calm stage or the tension stage, but we'll go clockwise. So in the calm stage, typically there isn't a lot of argument. People are getting along with each other. There is a little bit of more support on a superficial level at times. There is this sense of maybe one may feel like they are being seen, or one may feel like they are listened to. And in this stage, there is no conflict usually. And then people move into a tension stage. A tension stage is a little bit more awkward. There is tension essentially, right? Where people are not talking to each other as much. There's a lot more silence treatment. There's a lot of awkwardness, like I said, like this sense of offness that happens. People being short with each other when it comes down to communication. A lot more ignoring and acting like the other person does not exist. This leads to the next stage, which is an incident stage. With the incident stage, there's either, typically in this stage, there's conflict, okay? So it can happen on a verbal level where you're being yelled at and being told that you need to change something about yourself. Sometimes it could be physically being harmed or sexually being harmed as well too. And even financially being told that you're not going to get money or give me your money or anything like that as well too. So in this stage, with the incident stage, there is a rise of that conflict that shows up. But then people don't stay in that conflict stage. They go into reconciliation stage. In this stage, you might hear a lot more like, I'm sorry, or I won't do that again, or give me another chance. Typically, the abuser have ways around them to convince their victim that they will not repeat this cycle with them again. A lot of the time is future faking, which means giving false hopes and false idea that this cycle is over and I'm going to change, and everything else that you can think of when it comes down to just giving people false hope, essentially, okay? And typically the victim person will trust the abuser in that stage, and they will eventually move into the calm stage again, where things are going well, and then the tension happens again, the incident happens again, and then they reconcile again, okay? So this cycle, if you can tell, it's a lot of hot and cold, up and down. It's just pure chaos. And typically, some of the clients that I work with tend to struggle to differentiate, well, if I'm being in a abusive cycle with dancing with someone, am I also in a trauma bond with them? So the difference between the two trauma bonds are the actual connection that you have with the abuser, and it happens usually on a psychological and emotional level, where the cycle of abuse is the actual behavior that the people are doing to each other, right? So people can have both and can have either, right? So a lot of people who are in abusive dynamics with people sometimes do not have that trauma bond, and they feel separate than the abuser from the abuser. And there are also people that I meet who do not have the cycle of abuse with people, but are trauma bonded with people as well too, right? Where they're thinking a lot and they're getting love bombed, and at times they have conflict here and there. Maybe they just get discarded right away as well. So either ways, the main difference between the two is one is mostly psychological, that's the trauma bond, and emotional, and the cycle of abuse happens on an actual tangible ways that you can notice the behavior itself, okay? Now, the challenge though is, how do you step out of this, right? So how do you break the cycle? If you are yourself or you know somebody who is in this cycle, get out is not the right answer right away, right? So those of us that are clinicians, if you are a future therapist yourself listening to this as well, it's all about creating a strategy and a safety plan. You have to think through what are the possible ways that you can step out of this without triggering the abuser, because the abusers typically seek control at all cost, which means sometimes they can harm their victim and even get to a point where they can take their life away. So it's all about reporting correctly to the right authorities, thinking through ways that you can step out of that space, safe environment that you can go to, people that you can trust that can protect you. There are plenty of organizations that can also support you if you do not have family members. There are different ways that we can go about this, but I highly recommend first, make sure that you are in therapy, make sure that you have some sort of a person that you can lean on if you cannot afford therapy as well, like community leaders or teachers or professors or the cops or anybody that you can trust who's an authority figure in our society here, at least in the United States. And then think through ways that you can strategize to step out of that dynamic. Most people that I meet in the therapy space, they're not in a quote unquote minor abusive cycles. Sometimes people, because I work with difficult cases personally, so most people are in year-long or years, I would say decade-longs of the cycle of abuse, and their abusers have so much power over them. So it takes a while first to empower the client and get them to believe that they are not the problem, and then they can take that power back and make a decision to step out of that dynamic. Okay, so this is a difficult topic. I hope you guys liked the video. Be kind to yourself, be kind to other people around you. There is help, and I want you to know that, and do not be afraid to reach out to anybody around you that feels safer than the person that is abusing you. Alrighty, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.